So that's the reality of it. Um, just wanted to kind of jump in, bro, to what I was just kind of talking about right before we started. Um, we're talking about marriage and I guess how it's perceived today. And I think for me, from my perspective, I look at it different. I keep hearing or keep reading people saying women are incentivized to leave. Um, I don't look at it that way, right? And I'm going to say it for this reason. If she's incentive, like, what's the incentive to leave? I guess that's the part I'm is taking half. Most of us don't got shit. Let's keep it above. I know when we talking about rich people and we athletes and rappers and entertainers, yes, that's a bigger concern. But when we start talking about the average person, right? When you coming into and this is not me knocking nobody, right? This is reality. What 77% of Americans live check to check with less than 10,000 in the bank. Not that you want to give that up,
Mm-hmm.
right? But nobody is marrying anybody to get over on them from a financial standpoint when the average salary is like $50,000 to 70,000, bro. Right? So when I look at it, I listen and but I have to remember I'm different. My situation is different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, dudes are talking about going into a marriage with a prenup. Cool. I ain't even against that.
Mm-hmm.
But what are you going in with that's justifying that prenup? Because anything you get after that is still y'all. You know what I'm saying? So if you're going in heavy loaded on the front end, okay, it makes sense. But I struggle with it because I'm like, the incentive, people say they incentivize women to get divorces. There's no real incentive. If you stay with him, you get 100% access to everything he had, right? That's the incentive to stay. If you leave, you might get 50%, but you come with that 50% also comes with that 50% of debt. Y'all splitting that. You know what I'm saying? So I look at it way different than a lot of people. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit, and then that goes into the war, especially I'm gonna say between black men and black women. Like I think we got to a point now. It should need to be talked about every day. It's too much shit going on. I see again, men are saying, listen, there's no point in getting married. There's no point in doing this. Then they're saying, hey, women, marry before you carry. And then dudes are like, don't mess with chicks. Like, we're just all over the board. And at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, the kids suffer. Family structure suffers.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I wanted to talk about, I'm gonna open it up to you, let you speak on it, but I just wanted to set the stage real quick.
Right. So I think that we have to establish the fact that being incentivized should not be reduced to economics.
Okay.
So yeah, when we talk about economics, then it's an irrelevant conversation for 98% of us,
Okay.
right? But when I hear incentivize, I'm thinking, and even from my own experience, like, and I say in this state, in a lot of states, women are given leverage with children. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And then when you have leverage with children, then you also have leverage with getting government resources. So when you say incentivize, I think it's like they are met with more sympathy in those, you know what I'm saying? And the man is generally looked at as, he doesn't get the same grace when we talk about and even socially, when we talk about divorces, women are incentivized with sympathy just from a social standpoint. So I would have to, agree with the sentiment that, women are incentivized, divorce itself is incentivized. You know what I mean? I'm not even gonna say that men don't have in they're incentivized by, being able to deflect with these ideologies and avoid marriage, right? And so, but I definitely think it's a different. It's a huge difference in terms of how society handles women versus how they handle men. And I don't think incentives are reduced to economics. Like I said, it's an irrelevant conversation for most of us when it comes to economics. When we talk about divorce, but when we talk about the leverage in terms of, if you do even if you do amass some things, I think a prenuptial, we associate prenuptials with rich people, but nowadays I think prenuptials for us should represent an agreement between you know, two people. This is our understanding in the event that since 77% of our of marriages end in divorce anyway, and they are initiated by 77%.
Okay, I know where you're going with that, right?
Yeah. So I'm saying it's an agreement, and that's what I think. Going into the other topic, I think you wanted to talk about with the debate, between certain personalities as it relates to,
What up,
um,
Robin?
marriage. What's up, Robin? Marriage and relationships, because I do think that it's a conversation to be had for sure. I don't think there's a one sided. It's one side is right and one side is wrong. But
No,
like you said,
both is wrong.
I think it's a definitely because the shit we making it more difficult than what it has to be.
Hundred
You
percent.
know what I mean? Really, it's just about being responsible to yourself first and knowing who you are, and then carrying yourself responsibly in that space. I mean, it's common sense, right? Nobody wants to lock themselves into a relationship that is not going to serve them well for the duration of their lives. So for that very reason, we need to be careful on how we interact and how we mate.
100%.
And there is no excuse for it. I mean, like we exceptions don't make the rule. And I say that to say that we know that sometimes, we think we did our due diligence and it don't work, right? That is
Right.
not the case for most
That's
people.
rare. That's rare,
It's just not.
right? I sit down and rap one of my guys, and we go through this shit. He's like, "Oh man, you don't know what it's like." Blah blah blah. I'm like, "Bro, every chick you've been with, I've saw the red flags. I've told you, I don't hide this shit. Like, bro, this ain't gonna work. Oh, you hating?
Right.
I'm not hating, bro. I know you. I see the situation. This shit is not gonna work. And then when
Right.
it don't work, bro, oh man, you just got lucky. I didn't get lucky, bro. I'm not lucky in the aspect. I'm telling you, most people who are in relationships that fail. Well, let me take a step back. Every relationship you have will fail until you find the one that don't. That's reality, right? That's how life works.
Mhm.
But if you have a consistent set of failures back to back to back, and I'm talking shit, same calendar year or two, you're doing something wrong, right? But we don't. I don't think most people pick the right way, right?
Right.
They're using the wrong characteristics. They're using the wrong shit. Like it's just it don't make sense to me.
Bro,
It's
it
not
don't
that
it, it
difficult.
it doesn't even take multiple failed relationships to realize where you're making your mistakes at, right?
Mhm.
Like you can really have one relationship and learn enough from that relationship if it doesn't succeed to where it's like, okay, I know what not to do next time. It doesn't
Right,
take multiple relationships because we know what comes with nobody's going to go through multiple relationships unscathed and without children, right? So we know that can't be the way.
right.
Mhm.
I'd seen I don't know. I think it's a bro named Trey G or something like that. He be all over social media. He had posted something, and he was talking about dating and risk. And I'm like, I said, man, listen, dating is. I keep saying it's not for older people. By the time, if you have been in a lot of relationships, by the time you hit 30, 35, you are damaged. That's men and women. That
So
shit has an impact.
what's your recommendation
My
if
recommendation is
case?
this, right? And again, once you pass the age, you pass the age. There's some shit you just can't fix. You got to deal with what you got. But what
Okay.
I encourage people, young people, because I'm not gonna waste my time, in my opinion, on people who already their minds are made up. I can't tell the old motherfucker shit,
Okay,
right?
what in the dating
So
space, what's old in the dating
what,
space?
what I'm saying is, if you've hit 30 and you
Uh-huh.
haven't had a couple of long term relationships,
Mhm.
it's probably a wrap. You biased, right? Most of the
Meaning
cats
what?
are
Like
you don't trust women out the gate,
okay.
right? So you come into it, or you don't trust men, whatever the situation is. You come into the relationship with doubts already. You're
Okay.
expecting failure. If you expect failure, you get failure. I don't care what aspect of life
Right.
it is, right?
Okay,
Um,
so I'm saying like are we just saying that per this conversation that demographic is
no,
irrelevant, or are we saying
that demographic needs to get therapy first.
okay, I see what you're saying.
Fix the situation, not just not just the man, not just the woman. Because if you are mostly healed, because nobody's gonna be 100% healed, right? That's just reality.
Mhm,
You're
yeah.
mostly healed. You pick somebody that's not. They're not gonna feed off your healing. You're gonna feed off their unhealed shit,
Okay.
and you're just gonna be right back into the shit.
Right.
Take time, fix you,
Right.
right? When I listen to a lot of and mostly men, because that's who I communicate with, right?
Mhm.
I'm listening to all the things that's wrong with women. I'm like, but what are you doing to fix you? Because it doesn't matter what's wrong with her. If you pick her, something's wrong,
Mhm.
right? We're skipping the original problem, and this is the same thing for women. If you pick a woman, or excuse me, as a woman, you pick a man that's got 4, 5, 6 baby mamas, and you end up another baby mama. There's nothing to be surprised about,
I
right?
agree. I agree.
You might get lucky, right? And he might turn out to be good. But that's like
But
planning your retirement at the casino.
yeah,
It's
except
gonna work for a few people,
right.
right?
So
So
okay, so so where does the conversation need to start at?
this conversation needs to start with the young people, right? And say, listen,
Okay.
stop trying to reach the finish line before you. This is for the young lady. Stop trying to stop waiting on a man at the finish line. Fellas, stop telling other young fellas level up to get you a woman, because what you're saying is get to the finish line and go find one, right? From my opinion, get you somebody while you young. I started dating super young. I don't necessarily condone that, right? As far as super young, like 15. Find your relationship somewhere between 18 and 24. You don't have
Okay.
to have a lot, but you
Okay.
build that life and that future with somebody, right?
Okay.
When you are 35 and 40 and you trying to find somebody, you worried about too much shit that really matters, right? I've put in the work to get here. Is this person trying to take it, right? And this person, whoever that person is, and this is on the man and the male and female side, right? They're worried, okay, this man or woman is worried about me trying to take from them. They don't trust me, right? A smart move is if you've got shit to lose, the smart move is to protect it to the best of your abilities. But let's be honest, telling somebody I want to protect my assets means I don't trust you, which is not necessarily a bad thing because you had experiences where that's where life has taken you.
That's an interesting conversation,
But
right?
that's a hard sale.
Right. So, but because in my mind, it can go two ways, right? You can look at it that way, or you can say it should not. Like I know that this person is wanting to put things in place, precautions in place because of their failed experiences. It has nothing to do with me, right? Therefore, I don't take it personal because I know I'm legit. You know what I'm saying? Like
That's a common sense thought process.
and it's like actually how we supposed to do business, right? Like it shouldn't be nothing
Right.
wrong with
I
doing
was just going there.
contracts, right? Because it's like we if we have good intentions here and we have an understanding, then this is going to be irrelevant, right?
I think the one thing where I see the difference when we talk about the advantages, disadvantages of marriage for men and women. Men are like, well, I lose half this, I lose that. If you you can always get money back. I've been flat ass broke multiple times. You know what I'm saying? You cannot get time back. You cannot get your womb back. If a woman gave you her youth and her womb, and then you like, fuck it, and she got nothing out of it because you dipped, that's a hard sale for me. You're asking, keep in mind, we are as men are saying to women, the most important thing you can bring to me from a relationship standpoint to start it is your youth and your purity to a certain extent. When I say pure, I don't mean virgin, I mean just not having a bunch of motherfuckers babies, right? Every time they date a man, again, I'm not a body count dude, but a lot of men are. Every time they date a man, that makes it that much harder for the next one if that first one don't work out, right? So when I hear people say, well, I don't want to marry because the government will get involved, like to me, they carrying a lot of the fucking risk because I look at it like I can go broke and get money again. There's nothing somebody can take from me that I can't replace but my life, right? Time's gonna pass one way or another, right? We ain't getting that back either. That's what everybody on the same page. But I don't know. I look at it, man, and we look at marriage and relationships now as worst case scenario. To me, when you get in a relationship and you're talking about marriage, you're trying to become one, right? And again, I'm in a different situation, so I'm speaking it from a outside view. If I were to meet, say I was a single dude, I owned a house. I meet a chick, she owns a house. We're gonna buy a house together, right? Because I don't want to move into yours, you don't want to move in mine. What I would probably do at that point is say, listen, if we are going to be a couple, either we're both on both deeds because we are one, or we're gonna sell those properties and buy something together. Either way it goes, we're gonna be on both of them. But I think a lot of people are always looking at, and you have to be cautious, right? As you spend time amassing whatever you have, whether you have a lot or a little, you still spend the time to get it. You have to be careful. And that's where I go back to, at a certain age, dating becomes more of a scary thing than something beautiful and about raising a family and creating a family.
Yeah. I think part of the problem is that we never stop to renegotiate the rules of a marriage, and I think that should have happened when the laws for women in the workforce changed.
So what do you mean renegotiate the rules of marriage?
I'm saying because prior to women being being allowed to being part of the workforce, then I think traditional rules worked, right?
So what should be changed now that they can work? Help me understand, because I don't grasp that.
because okay, and when we talk about, yeah, idealistically, right, and spiritually, marriage should be about, it should be a spiritual commitment, right, a covenant thing, right? But in America, it's not. It's not that. And then when you add in the fact that America is about capitalism, so when you add in the economic component of the woman being part of the workforce, then we kind of we kind of enter it as is like we kind of enter as business partners. Then it's not the same as if as when marriage is being arranged from a cultural standpoint, and that's going on when you have this sense of like, because we talk about women being submissive, right?
Mhm.
But women were, I don't think they were naturally submissive. It was more so by force. You know what I mean? Like you had to be submissive to someone who was superior to you in every way,
Because
right? So
you
it's easy.
couldn't live without them, essentially.
Right. But now that you can, now that's a whole different dynamic. You know what I mean? And then especially you can not only can you earn alongside your a man, you can out earn him.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So
Do you
if
think that has an impact on the submissiveness?
absolutely, absolutely, because that like people have the wrong idea of what submissiveness is. Women now, a lot of women associate submissiveness with control. And submissiveness is not about control, it's about trust. You know what I mean? Like by me laying with a woman, I'm submitting to her because she can carry any disease that you know what I mean known to man.
So let me pause there because I'm glad you said it because this is the thing I say to people. I'm like, listen, how can you say you don't trust this woman, but you land with her unprotected?
Right.
Like your trust factor is fucked up. Excuse my language, right? Like your trust factor is fucked up, right? And so the submissiveness, I don't think it changes with. I think it's the person, right? And I think you have to
Yeah.
choose the right type. This goes back to what
Yeah.
you said, choosing the right
Yeah.
person. There's been, and I know my situation's different. There's been times my wife made more than me, but I also understand in the marriage unit, right? Somebody has to take a back seat for somebody else to take the lead. And what I mean by that is my wife trusted me, submitted, if you will, right? To enough to say, okay, I'm going to not pursue this amazing career early on, right? So I can watch the kids and take care of the house and support you in what you're trying to do to get to a level that can provide and protect and do all the things that are necessary for me while providing a quality of life that we all feel is acceptable for our family.
May I ask you something about your wife?
Yes, sir.
What kind of household did she grow up in?
She grew up in a two-parent household,
What
right?
was what was the dynamic like? What's the culture? What culture was she raised in like in terms of marriage?
Her parents were married. They did get divorced. However, they were divorced a long time before she knew it,
Okay.
right? And I mean that as in lived in the same house, even
Right.
though
Right. So I guess my question is, what was her perception? Even, obviously we realize things as we become adults, right?
right.
In our journey, but I'm saying, what was her perception? Per- You know, like let's say around the time that you began courting her, what was her perception of
I mean,
what the dynamic was
she
like?
was. I guess I'm struggling to understand the perception at that point. I mean, she just was the type of woman who supported her man, right? Even as a boy,
Did
right?
she,
Because that's
did,
what I was.
the question is, did she see that
What do you mean? I want to make sure I understand.
in her dynamic growing up in her
I'm
household?
certain. I'm certain.
Okay.
Right now, I will say, even in that dynamic, her mom made more, way back. Right,
Yeah.
her mom made more, but it didn't. It didn't
Right.
necessarily affect who did what.
Right. Because of how she
Right,
was raised. Right. You know what I mean?
right,
Because
right. And
it
that's what I'm saying. Like we have to look at the person,
yeah.
right, and
Yeah.
understand because let's be real, bro. The reason BBLs is jumping because sometimes we see the cheeks and don't worry about shit else, right? That's I mean,
Yeah. We
we fall for
definitely
the cheeks.
Yeah, we definitely live in a perverted society, right? So I'm saying like that, that's to the fault of both men and women. You know,
100%.
like we gotta be better than that. Like certain shit, I don't even think we need to be talking about because come on, it's common sense. We gotta be better than that.
It's common sense, but we're not showing it, right? We're not displaying the common sense.
Yeah, I just think that for us to spend time talking about, like even, BBL culture and what that really equate to real value? Like, come on, if
Is
we
that
have,
not where we put in value though? Let's just think about it.
I
That's where we as a
some
culture
people,
are putting
some,
value.
some people do, but I'm saying those are the people I think that we shouldn't. They're not qualified to have this conversation. There's
I'm with
enough
you on that one,
there's
100%.
enough of us that know, like, okay, like I don't have to deny my if I see a perfectly shaped
It's nice.
I'm a look, right. But I'm saying I know, like, it's nothing in me that makes me say I'm going to prioritize that over my family, and like I'm never going to, like, come on, like,
And I'm with you, but I think the part you're missing. I think a lot of men are looking at that and saying, at least the single dudes, right? The dudes who are trying to formulate the ones that are really and those women too. But I'm talking about the men right now. They're really focused on those women, trying to change those women into better women, right? I hear dudes all the time, "Oh, she shouldn't be
right.
on social media doing it." No, you don't want her doing that because you want her. You want her because of what you saw her doing, but you don't want her to do that.
Okay,
Let's keep it real.
I
The
know.
women that are doing that, let them do it. There's nothing you can do
Right.
about it.
No, I agree.
They're cooked,
I don't
right?
disagree, right? What I'm saying is those what happened the women that are those are insecure women with psychological issues that are attracting shallow men, right? That you know what I mean? Like that's his own world.
I think that's a big part of society right
I
now.
know,
Almost a bigger part than the other side.
and that's I'm saying that's to the fault of those of us who know better because we don't spend enough time having the right conversations the right way. We just kind of bow out and do our thing. Well, then these people are going to be prevalent. They're going to be the image of culture, and if they're the image of the culture, then that's what our kids are going to be
So
following.
how do we handle that? How do we have that conversation to change that, right?
I
Because
think we need to stop being so scared to be judgmental. Like
I'm with you.
we
I'm with you.
we don't like it's something about people being critical that upsets other people, and it's like that is the very root of a progressive society. Criticism, being critical, because that's how you're going to grow,
I
right? Like,
think I think there's ways to do it properly, and I think a lot of people right now are doing it in a manner where I'm going to shame you because you're not what I like, or you're not. I like what you are, but you're not the way I want you to be. It should just be here. Here's how we handle ourselves as decent human beings, right? If I put on a police officer uniform and walk the streets, somebody's probably going to ask me for help, right? If they need it. So if you dress like a prostitute, somebody might treat you that way, right? That's just the reality of what we do.
right,
We
that's
need to
what I'm
be
saying.
honest with
That's
each other.
all I'm saying.
If
That's
I'm sagging and if I got gold chains, I've got gold grill, I'm sagging my pants, you might think I'm thugging in the streets, and I
right,
can't
but
be mad at you for that.
people are only okay with this when it's comfortable and convenient for them, right? If we talk about it from a systemic perspective, right? Like people are okay with criticizing, what we perceive to be as racist, right? But
Hmm.
then when the criticism is on how some so-called black people carry themselves, then it's uncomfortable. Now people don't want to, like, they want to call you every kind of
Hundred
coon
percent,
that you could ever be,
hundred
right? But
percent.
it's like, man, criticism is criticism, right? It's room for improvement in every perspective and every aspect of society. So sometimes you have to say, yeah, this it ain't. I don't think it's shaming to say, hey, this is not it. This ain't it right here. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
hey, for example, you know how much this culture idolizes a person like Snoop Dogg,
that's crazy.
right?
Because I mean, I can give only thing I can give Snoop points for is he's still with his wife and he raised his family. I can't be mad at that. His behavior is crazy.
Yeah, his behavior is crazy, right? I'm saying, and I'm talking about the image, like that is literally the epitome of, for him to be just, we hold him in such regard as like he's an icon, right? If he's the icon, then that's pretty much saying that a person that we how can we tell a young man do not be a part of gang culture then?
Right, right.
You
I'm
can
with
you
you.
can be an icon through gang culture.
I'm
Per
with you.
what you see what I'm saying?
Right. We
So
we we love the worst of the community.
right,
Like we uphold that shit.
right. We can't just because he's lovable or he's funny and all these different things. We just gonna dismiss the level of degradation that he slew upon the women in our culture. Like we just
And
gonna
it's not even that. It's just the whole behavior, right?
everything. I'm saying
I've
so.
I've never been to a prison release party, but I've seen a whole bunch of motherfucking prison release parties where somebody's coming home
You see what I'm
and
saying?
and dude, they giving him every bro. It was a cat local in South Bend. I'm not gonna say names, but it ain't hard to figure out. Came home, bro. They had damn near, I mean, boxes of money, clothes. I mean, I'm just like, y'all giving this dude shit like he did something great. He literally served his time. He did something fucked up to get there, right? And I'm not. I am gonna judge, even though I did the dumb shit too, and I judge myself for the dumb shit I did in my life. It was nothing to be proud of to start with, right? I had this discussion. I'm like, I understand the desire to take care of your family, but at a certain point, when you're doing certain shit, you're no longer taking care of your family. You're actually putting your family in danger.
See, that's what I'm saying. When we do that, we do that a lot. We like to leverage our family in a way that like I said, that's on us. That is not on the society that so that that
It's some cultural shit, bro. I remember the day my woman said to me, "Babe, you got to quit that. Like, I want you. That extra shit don't matter, right?" And when I was talking to my brother about it and talking to him, he said, "Man, bro, most women ain't gonna say that to you, right? I was getting it. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if you can say most women ain't, a lot of women ain't, but I mean, if you yeah,
If you in that lifestyle, you in that lifestyle.
right, the type of women that we tend to associate with when we in that lifestyle,
Right,
yeah, most of them ain't gonna say that. You know what I mean?
right.
You just happen to be have a rare
I had her
case,
before the
right?
lifestyle, right? It
Right?
wasn't that, but yeah,
That's different.
that was
But
the difference.
bro, I'm just saying that like we can't. How can we? It's no reason for us to even be critical of these young women on social media showing their ass because the icons in our culture is your Beyonces, your Megan Thee Stallions,
Yeah,
your
yeah,
Cardi. I'm saying so if that's what's iconic. Then what I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's what we have to start there with the conversation. We have to draw.
no doubt.
What are we doing? Like, what are
Bro,
we
I
doing here?
saw more posts in the last 4 hours about some cat that used to sell dope in Washington D.C. and went to prison that died. Can't remember the dude name. And I had to look him up. Rayful Jackson or Rayful Johnson.
Rayful Edmonds. Rayful Edmonds.
There you go.
Yeah.
My bad on the name, on the mispronunciation of the name, bro. I'm seeing. I had to look him up, right? Because again, I'm weird. I don't watch no TV that.
No,
I,
I feel you on that.
I don't watch none of this shit that make us look. So I miss whatever stories was there, right? I've never watched none of that shit.
Right.
But I'm like, man, who is this dude? So I look at him like, oh, that's the cat they was. I'm like, that, like
Why
we
do we care?
sad.
Why do we care?
We shouldn't. People die every day,
That's what I'm saying.
right? Important people die, right?
It's,
People who actually try to do something good for society.
and
Um,
it's what we choose to value. So I'm saying,
how do we change that shit other than marriage and raising your kids, right? I'm looking at people say, man, I don't want a relationship. I want to I don't even want to cohabitate. I just want a chick I can smash. Like that's going kids coming out of that, bro. Unless one of y'all can't have them.
we not talking. We not talking to men when men ain't saying that. Men are not
So
saying that.
how do
Males
we?
are.
But okay, those males are reproducing in our society, right? How do we raise? Again, we need to raise our daughters to
Yeah.
understand, right? And I catch flack for this. I raised my daughter not to need a man. I don't want you to need a man. I want you to want a man to work with. If you need somebody, he has control over you in a manner. I'm not saying don't submit, don't be a good wife. Don't get somebody you need to survive. Right? I'm always your fallback plan.
I
I
think
need
that's
you
a
to be.
gray area. That's a gray area in this culture, though. I see what you're saying, but that's a gray area in this
But she
culture.
grew up, she got married, they had a baby. Right?
Right.
Like
Right.
that they work together as a team. That's
That
what you're supposed to do.
that had more to do with the culture she grew up in, though. You know what I'm
Right. But in the
saying?
same situation, her mom loves me. She didn't need me to survive. I always wanted a woman who wanted me. I don't want to be needed. I was needed in the
Oh,
streets, bro.
I don't. That's the thing about it. I don't think it's about her needing you to survive.
Right. And that's what I'm saying.
But
Like,
to get to where she wanted to have the life that she wanted to have, she absolutely needed you and you needed her. That's the difference. What I'm saying, like we can't. This is not about survival because we surviving, right? We
and that's
surviving.
I'm with you.
This is about thriving. To thrive, we need each other and we need each other
And
to be
that's a
healthy.
different conversation. That's not the conversation that's being had. I'm listening to dudes throw out, and you're probably right, they're males, not men, throw out these hypotheticals. If all men died today, bro, that shit's not gonna happen. Whenever I hear them hypotheticals, if all men died today, I'm like, I'll grow wings and fly away. Like that shit don't matter.
Fuck all that. What I'm saying is, bro, just think about your entire life. Like, have you ever had to ask yourself, like, just sit and wonder, like, try to convince yourself why you don't need a woman? Like, I've
No,
never.
I need to. I want a woman, right?
Well,
I'm going to function better with a woman.
right, but I think when niggas do that, what they are saying that they don't want to be held accountable. They don't want to be held to a standard.
Right?
Because if nothing else, my woman can serve as my conscience at times, right? You
100%,
know what
bro.
I'm
She
saying?
straightens me the fuck up when I'm
So
crooked.
and I've invested in her, so that's why I'm going to listen, right? So that's why I don't do I need her to survive? No, I don't need her to survive. I ain't talking about surviving. It's a like it's common sense why we need each other, right? Like on a human level, we need each other. It's already in the design. So why are we talking about do we really need like, bruh?
I
Like,
think it's
come
too
on.
many of us want, and I shouldn't say us. I'm talking about. I'm gonna call them the misfits, right? They want. I think a lot of men who cannot attract a woman want to be able to control a woman. I mean, talking to the point about women should go back to not being able to work. Like, bro, I don't want anybody to need me like that. I know what actual love feels like, right? In if you don't have somebody who is actually into you, the moment the opportunity comes for them to get something better, they go. Right? That's the reality.
Mhm.
Um, but I guess you're right. Like men and women need each other in that aspect. No one woman needs no one man, but we need each other as a species, right?
Man, bro, I hear a lot of women, women that are considered successful and live good lives, and today they're not saying that they're unhappy today, but I'm saying these women in their most healthiest space realize now that their value system, it was just a little bit deprioritized, and so I'm saying, like, we need to get our shit together. Like our value system is fucked up. Like, yeah, it's like
100%.
these accolades don't no who nobody really gives a shit about accolades at the end of their lives, right? Like
No doubt, no doubt.
nobody cares about that. Like no, there are no conversations where people are dwelling on the accolades of someone leaving like a Martin Luther King or a Malcolm X or whoever, right? Nobody's
Right.
dwelling on their accolades. They're really talking about their impact and they're really listening to the
Right.
things they said. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like nobody really cares that Tupac sold all these records. It's about his presence. You know what I mean? The
Right.
value that he
Right.
brought to society. So I'm saying, like, if we take that into perspective, then we gotta know that the only thing, none of this shit is real outside of who we attach ourselves to,
100%.
and the experiences and memories that we create, and the paths that we make way for, because we created this reality no matter one way or another.
Yeah.
Like this shit just didn't happen. You know what I
I think
mean?
the thing that bothers me the most is the people out here talking the most shit about relationships and how you don't need this. It's how you shouldn't have this or you don't do this. They got kids already. I'm like, man, do you realize the shit you say is being heard by the generation that looks up to you, right? Whether it's your kids, your uncle, your nieces, your nephews,
Yeah.
and men and women are putting this shit out there, and I'm like, man, that's crazy work, bro. Like you realize you are literally creating or
Hmm.
reproducing the problem that that you sit here complaining about.
You know what? What's crazy is that like it's facts that no one in the history of humanity has ever raised a child by themselves.
100%.
Like nobody has.
Right.
So that alone, like we all have to agree that we need children, right? Like we want to, this world needs children for it to sustain. You know what I mean? Like
If
for
we
it
want to sustain human life,
you have
right,
so I'm saying, and so we
or
all
even a decent quality of life,
that
shit.
yeah, and then we need to protect the children, right?
Hmm.
And so it's like if nothing else, we need each other for that. So that tells me that if you have to have enough, you have to be selfless enough to know that if you have unsuccessful relationships, but you have children that you procreated through those relationships, then the standard you do need a mate. You know what I mean? Like, and,
100%.
and it has nothing to do with you being in love or that person being in love. It's just the fact that we have children here that need to be nurtured, and you cannot do it by yourself.
A child needs access, as much access as possible to two parents.
Yeah, to men and women, right?
Right,
Like,
to their parents, right,
like
right,
yeah,
right,
like
right.
so it's like I mean, even if you got because we create, we don't even realize how much detriment we create when we have these, even in foster care, right? Most of the foster care providers are single women.
It's about money, bro.
Right, right. And it's like
That's it.
that's
Yeah.
not a healthy thing. Like really, you should make to me, if society wanted to do itself a favor, it would say, what I mean, in order to qualify for foster care, there has to be a man and woman. It has to be a tandem.
You know what was crazy? So I'm out here. A lot of my neighbors and people in the circles I'm in have Chinese daughters adopted. Right? They
Mhm.
require you to have a father and a mother. You have to be married. And a lot of them do that because
Oh,
they,
in China you do?
Yeah, you cannot. A single person is not going to be able to adopt a child,
I
not from
didn't
the
know that.
U.S. Right? Yeah, no, you got to go. It's a process. You got to go over there multiple times. You got to go through classes. You got to do all this other shit. But you have to be a married. You have to have a stable home. You can't just say like I'm a single dad or I'm a single mom or single
Right.
man, single woman, and go get a kid. They're like,
Right.
nah, you got to put a kid into a functional family unit. Now we can't guarantee it's functional, but it's got to pass the functional test.
I'm saying we do our due diligence, right?
Right,
Yeah.
they gonna do their due diligence, right?
That's
My neighbor, my neighbor, we talk every fucking day. He's got, they adopted a little. She's grown now, right? But they adopted a young girl from China, and he tells me all the shit that he's like, man, we had to go through, we had to do all these tests and take these classes and learn about China and all this other stuff. And it's about them making sure this is something you really want. You want to raise a child together, not you want to raise a child and she don't, or you want to raise a child and he don't. It's you want to raise a child together.
Yeah.
We don't have that, right? To us, I tell people, man, lust babies is crazy, right? Shit happens, but we know how babies are made. We know what the fuck it takes to have a baby or to make a baby.
Yeah, and that's why when we talk about it, and that's when we going back to the term incentivize, being incentivized. People are not afraid to have children, quote unquote, by themselves because they know they'll have access to resources. You know what I mean? People depend on and earn a tax credit every year.
Yeah, but what do you? I mean, on the flip side, if you don't provide something, the kids is extra fucked, right? It's society has to come up with something.
Yeah, but you
Right.
also have to what you instead of incentivizing, single parent homes, incentivize two parent homes. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
if you gonna give me $1,000 a month, because people that's a universal language in America. If you're gonna give me thousand
100%.
dollars a month for me with this kid by myself, then give me 2,000 if I'm with this person, raising them with this person. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like
Right.
then I think that because that's the only universal language. You know what I'm saying? Like people do fucked up things for money, but they also do good things for money too.
I mean, most of our doctors wanted to help people, but that money is what really
Yeah,
pushed them. You know what
exactly.
I'm saying? We push them over that edge.
Right. I mean,
Right.
so I'm saying we already do it. We just don't do it with our children. We don't do it in all the spaces that we need to. I'm like, because we don't even like. You mean to tell me that you're gonna minimize the value of the people who are educating your children? You going like these? They should get paid like doctors. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
You would
Uh,
get the best educational system and educators in the world. People, you know what I'm saying?
no doubt.
That's what you want. You want people to want to come to America to teach because of how how they're compensated and how they're
Yep.
treated, how they're
I mean,
valued in society.
that's a kind of it's kind of fucked up, right? When you look at the process, as far as schools go and teachers, right? Because depending on where you live, depends on how much you pay in taxes, and that money goes to the school. Me personally, I think that shit. I think if the Catholic Church can preach the same shit across all churches every Sunday, every school can have the same books and have the same training and the same teaching. But
Mhm.
that's unfortunately not how we work,
Yeah,
right?
because
I
other
pay
other
taxes,
cultures do that. Other cultures they treat
yes,
they like yeah
because that shit's important because they understand the key. But the problem is most of those cultures that do that are not capitalistic cultures, right? When you put capitalism in play, it don't make you can't have everybody with an equal
yeah
playing field,
yeah. I
right?
agree.
Because now that creates a problem for the people who want to be rich and want want their kids and their relatives and their friends to do better,
Yeah
right? You gotta have that cheddar
yeah
to put them in that situation,
yeah
right? And we talk about socialism also, like, bro, I pay taxes for kids to go to school. I don't have kids to go to school, right? So my tax dollars are spent for somebody else's kid to get a great fucking education in the Penn Township,
That's crazy. That's crazy.
right?
Yeah.
Right? Like the
So
most of my kids
why do
not
we act
going to
like we're
school
not why do we act like we're so against socialism when we're already
because
socialized?
because every single person hears I have to give to my money to
Yeah.
somebody who's less than me. When in reality, and I had this conversation with one of my homies, like, man, I should have to give money for welfare. I was like, bro, I pay more in taxes than you made 2 years ago. That means I'm taking care of you, but I ain't bitching about it. I understand it's for the greater community,
All right.
right? It's the
Right.
greater of it's the greater good.
Yeah.
But we are taught from the top down, right, to be selfish. We want to make sure the people below us have less.
Yeah.
We want the people above us to have more. It's ass
Yeah.
backwards,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not anti-billionaire and no shit like that. A lot of people be like, oh man, you shouldn't have a billion. If you earn that shit, you earn that shit.
I mean, that's who cares? I mean, it's only a few of them motherfuckers around anyway.
Right, right. And handful wise, only a few of them, but
Yeah.
we complain about them like we don't shop with them every day.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I understand, right? It takes effort and time and sacrifice to build a business. And if that motherfucker take off, great. You earn you with every dollar you legitimately earn, you earn.
Mhm.
Right? It's not, everybody go, oh, they pay some people too much. That when nobody was complaining when they wasn't making shit, they put all them hours in,
Mhm.
right? Nobody was like, hey man, listen, I know you put a lot of hours in to do this. Let me give you $25,000, $30,000 so you can glide by this month and the next couple months. They motherfuckers don't care. But when they see that money come in and they like, well, nobody should be able to be a billionaire when people are homeless. Like, bro, most of us could afford to bring somebody in, but we ain't bringing them in.
Right, right. No,
Right.
that's
So, but going back to why we're so against socialism, it's because we are taught in this country we shouldn't give to people who have less than us. Right? They got to earn their way.
yeah,
But then we give money away to every fucking body else.
yeah.
Right?
So
It's
when we talk about going back to like the original the conversation about where do we start? Because if the argument is that women are incentivized for leaving marriage, then maybe that's the only logical thing that we could advocate for is the being incentivized for building strong family units, right? Like it's because it's countries that right now it's countries that pay you to come live there to start a family
yes.
there. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Right.
So I'm
Right.
saying we just don't, but we have to value family first. You know what I
We
mean?
do
Because
it.
they'll give what happened. They'll set up they'll have the funds there, and people will just be faking situations just to get the money, right? So I guess it still comes down to a value system. Like
You have to be a decent person.
how do
Right?
you how do you start that initiative in let's just say one community? Like how do you if we isolate it to this small section of this town, like in the city
In
like South
our
Bend.
country, you incentivize people to do right by making the wrong extremely painful. That's the only way we learn. We don't, bro.
So
Just look about.
what's the example of that in this space? Give me the example of what? Like, are you saying that you would basically penalize divorce heavier?
I would be more on the end of penalizing people having children and not getting married.
I think we
Right.
talked about this before, but
Right. Right.
how practical is that though?
None of this shit is practical. It's America, right? We
But
got freedoms.
let's
There is
entertain.
no practical way to do it. Like I'll give you an example because I spent a lot of time in China. Way back in the day, I say way back, China in certain provinces, you could have 2 children. After that, you had to pay a hefty ass fee,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And if you didn't pay that fee,
It's
you
not like that
lost
anymore.
access to not everywhere, nah, because they need more, they need more people because all the
Yeah,
girls got adopted because men
yeah,
wanted to have sons and carry their last name, and you
yeah,
know what I'm saying. So it caused a lot of people to a lot of fucked up shit.
yeah.
Um, but in order to have a third child, right? This wasn't even outside of marriage, but in order to have a third child, you had to pay a shit ton of money, and if you didn't, you lost access to some services that were provided to everybody else until you paid that shit. I don't know what that list of services was, some government services, some protections and shit
Yeah,
like that.
I can.
Um,
Yeah, okay.
we would I think my thought process is listen, not everybody has a baby, gets pregnant while they're married. That some shit happen. I say, listen, you have a baby, y'all got a 3-year window, right? To work that shit out and figure it out, become a family unit by law, because that's what we're asking the government to incentivize and shit. So you got to do it by the government standard, whatever that is. And then if you do, great. Here's X number of tax-free dollars, or we're going to give you a break on the first 25 or $50,000 you make tax-free to put towards your home, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Now
So
you
now we
have a
talk.
now you have a
Yeah,
home with your family in it,
yeah. And you
right?
know what? Now that you talking like that, okay, well, since they value blended family so much, then you need to pay the fathers that's gonna come in and take care of somebody else's
Oh, a
kids even
stepfather
more.
get a bigger check, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
you didn't
I
pick
like
up
that.
because if you and I'm not telling everybody to be stepfathers. I'm just saying you
Nah,
stepped into a situation that if everything is right, you're doing a bigger service,
oh, I like this conversation. We're gonna have to
right?
continue this.
Yeah, yeah. I know we got a 10:30 hard
Yeah,
stop, but
we're gonna have to
but
continue. I
think
like
about it,
this
right? There's
conversation
there's
though.
there's different things you can do to incentivize people to do things that's best for the family unit. We
Yeah,
know, and this is probably the hardest part of being in a relationship. There's differences between the cultures,
yeah,
right? And I've
yeah,
always told my son and my wife and my daughter, listen, life is not the same, right? Because they get to see 2 different aspects of reality, right? And I would always tell my kids have a super diverse set of friends, right? But I would always tell my son, especially, like, listen, everything ain't the same for you. That's for them. It's hard to explain that to somebody who don't understand when they're young,
Yeah.
right? Like everybody's not treated the same way. You don't have the luxury of bucking up if the police pull up, right? Because they're already pulling up looking at you questionable, right? You don't have the luxury. So that's the hard part, right? When we start talking, about interracial relationships, that's a hard piece. And I don't know why I even went down that path. I'm gonna get back to this shit,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I think we have to incentivize the family unit, but we also have to have a way to punish those who openly disregard that, right?
I think that's gonna be a harder one to
It
pull
has to
off.
start at a certain point, right? So you can't just say, okay, anybody who had a kid out of wedlock, blah blah blah. You have to say, listen, starting in 2035, this is what we do, right? You got to give everybody time to get right. Anybody who situation happened before that, you grandfathered in. You go, nothing changes for you,
Yeah.
right? But you give them enough window that people can be like, oh man, that's unfair to me that I can, I need to do that, right? We have to find a way now. Now, I'm not saying, I'm saying it's you, maybe you tax at a higher percentage, right? You are denied a passport, right? You are denied access to things that are not necessarily necessities, right? There's
Do you
no,
do you think that by doing that in the society that we live in, we're gonna see a lot of more like unhealthier abortions and unhealthier, people like really.
you probably ain't gonna like me on this one. I'd rather see an abortion than a child that's unwanted be brought to this world. Because now that child is punished for just being born and they had no fucking say in it. A child that is unwanted by both parents rarely has a good life, right? They're yelled at, they're mistreated, they're abused. Like that shit that creates problems,
But
bro.
but bro, it's children that are wanted get the same like
No doubt. But
same thing. Like I don't think it's reduced to children that are unwanted. There are just as many children who are unwanted who have good lives. There are just as many children who are wanted who end up having terrible lives.
there's a difference between unwanted and unplanned. Like let me
No, I,
clarify.
I understand. I don't think there's.
Unplanned is, hey, we had sex, we had a baby, we're excited about the situation, or I'm good enough to do my part. Then there are people like, both people are like, I don't want this fucking kid.
How are you? But I'm saying, how is that possible when y'all created the kid? How is it unwanted by both people when you
Bro,
did what it took
I
to
can't, I
create a
don't know,
kid?
I can't imagine that, but I see it every day. We all see it.
Right? I think that I don't know. That's the conversation to have. But I don't think that I can't be on the end of a terminated a child that's terminated over having a child that's unwanted. I think that there should be. I would rather see incentives and resources put into changing the trajectory of that dynamic. You know what I mean? If two
You can't make
parents,
somebody want a kid who don't want it,
I
no
mean,
matter what you give them.
in America, people will do anything for money.
Bro, listen. I just watched a story, or read a story. This chick, it's a white chick, she had mixed kids. She took their life, right? Both of them, because she just didn't want them. Now I think Pops probably did, right? And that's a scenario where they should have got. This is a failure of the system because DFS or DCFS, whatever you call it, they was involved. It was a lot of red flags that was skipped. She didn't want them fucking kids.
Right.
Um,
Right. I know
there's
that happens. I guess what I'm saying is like, what about the children, the parents who keep their children, raise them, but they beat them like they don't want them. You know what I'm saying? Like that
I'm under
happens.
the impression you didn't want those fucking kids. I can't understand why you would do that to some kids you wanted.
But they
Now,
do. I'm
if you have
saying
the wrong upbringing, right, bro, I can't see somebody.
some people don't know, no, they don't know how to discipline outside of that. They don't have the skills.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
I,
Whatever.
I
I'm just saying that it
I think
happens.
over disciplining is a different. I look at it as different. It's wrong. I look at it as different than somebody who just like, bro,
Not in a child's eyes
not in a
though.
child's eyes. You're right, not in a child, but there's a difference between somebody who is spanking kids too much and somebody's putting them in a fucking cage. Right? That's what I'm saying. Like
No,
it's
I
we go
agree that
to
there is a difference.
extremes when people don't want their kids.
There is a difference, right? I'm just saying, as far as a child is concerned, they still got abused, and they were
They gotta
child.
be no doubt.
I didn't ask to be here. You know what I mean? No matter what the
So
situation is.
so that's the key piece of what you just said. No, and I've had this conversation. No child has asked to be here. That's why we have to do something to put it on those who before you have those. I understand that there has to be some kind of consequence to bringing these children in to the world that you. I can't say you didn't intend to bring because we know how they made.
Right. I'm
Right?
all for that. I'm saying I'm not. What I'm saying is that I'm not on the side of.
I know we gonna always be different on that one.
I
I ain't
mean,
mad at you. I'm with you.
I mean, like I'm
Right.
saying, like what because terminating life, that all that does, what that really does is reinforces what we're saying is a problem, which is meaningless sex. That's what that does. If you have an out, then why are you gonna change your behavior?
I mean, I guess you have a certain point there, but I'm just when I'm looking at it and I see two people that don't want children and they doing that dumb shit. Again, I'm not saying that should be the pass on it. There's still should be some consequences.
Yeah,
But it,
I'm saying that there's a lot of people who want children who are not qualified to have children though. They want
all
them.
right, so
You
that's
know what
another
I'm
thing,
saying?
right? Parenting should come with responsibilities. Yeah, I
Yeah,
always say this. I say guns and kids is the only thing you can have that you don't need
aptitude.
no fucking nothing to have, and
Yeah.
those are two of the most dangerous things you can own.
It's like, you know what? I would rather them swap out the infrastructure they use to get licenses. I would rather that be swapped out for parenting.
I'm with you 100%. There should be, and there are countries that require you to, not saying, hey, listen, you can't have this baby, don't do, but once you get pregnant, you got to go take these classes, right? You got to take these parenting classes, right? Because as a father and a mother, your parents, you need to learn this shit. Because that, I tell you, bro, that most of us don't know what the fuck we doing. We just do it, we fly, right? We do it on the fly. Um,
Yeah.
because unlike our parents, the world we live in is different. And unlike our children, right, their kids, the world they live in is going to be different, right? So you can learn from your parents to a certain extent. They can put in the, what's the word I'm looking for? They can put in the kind of the value system, but you still got to live in the world you in.
Yeah.
But I think we gotta do something to address this shit. But we have to get back to not thinking that dating somebody or mating with somebody that you want to spend a life with, let me specify, is a bad thing. I think so many of us are hurt that we try to deny the process instead of acknowledge the fact that we failed in the process. There is no reason. Let me give you examples. I'm in this black husbands group, right? And over the last, I say, month or two, the posts have been getting crazy. And like, dude was like, man, what do you do when you with a woman and she starts making more than you, she stopped respecting you? I'm like, bro, you picked the wrong woman. Those signs were there.
So what is the group about? What's the main
It's
thing?
supposed to be about black husbands giving each other information and advice on how to, really tips on marriage, not negative shit, but here's things that you can do to improve your marriage or things you should be doing.
Right, I get
Right?
it. I get it.
Take your wife out. Right? This is strictly black men talking about their wives of all nationalities, but the husbands are all black.
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
Right? It's gotten to a point where I'm starting. We shouldn't. I told somebody the other day. I said, "There's no value that a single person has to my marriage. We shouldn't even be discussing them on the internet. Whatever. None of that should apply to us. A single person is talking about single people,
Mhm.
right? The
Mhm.
dating life for married people is completely different than dating life for single people. Dating life for married people, I'm dating the same person over and over and over.
Mhm.
Single people are dating whoever the fuck they can date, right?
Mhm.
Whoever's available that they want to date and want to date them back.
Yeah.
It's just it's weird to me because I'm like, man, we're supposed to be talking about things we can do to improve the family unit, right? Things don't get me wrong, you can come with problems. This cat's in there be like, man, listen, I was with my wife for this long, man, and I found out, she's talking to dude at work. That's a legitimate discussion to have,
Okay.
right? Get input from other people.
Yeah.
But dudes, some shit anything happened, bro. A lot of motherfuckers like, oh man, you should leave. Like, bro, I'm not saying stay if she cheat, but I'm talking other shit. She had a problem with this or this, that, and the other. Like, marriage is about, and this is any relationship, work, family, brother, sister, whatever. You got to work through shit.
Yeah.
Nothing is perfect.
That's why I'm saying I don't think that. So it may be deeper than just even the construct of marriage. I think that most of us are just not raised in cultures that where we value conflict resolution. You don't even know how to solve problems. You don't value solving problems amicably, right? Like it's just like that whole thing. If all you know is if it's a disagreement, you fight, then we got problems, right? Then that's
Right.
what your life is going to be
It's
like.
okay to fuck up, but you
Like
got to talk about it,
yeah, like I'm
right?
saying, and if you go and it's a structured way to have a debate and disagree. You know what I mean? Like I don't think husbands and wives should always be on the same page. Like
You
how are
got to
you,
disagree,
like you got to disagree. It's how we disagreeing, right?
right?
It's we already draw boundaries on how we're going to work. We already these agreements are already set in place. These are hard boundaries. We're never going to have to go to counseling about, how to salvage our marriage from infidelity, because we already
Right.
agreed that
Like,
infidelity
yeah.
is not even an option here. You
Right.
know what I
She didn't come
mean?
home last night. He didn't come home. That should have been discussed long before.
Right.
Right.
And,
And
and
that's the thing. I'm
yeah,
telling these, bro. I'm like, man, y'all having conversations with us in the group that you should have had with your woman before y'all got
right,
married.
right, right,
Like, you're not
right.
establishing, bounds. Like, one dude said something about a chick wants to. So this one was a tough one for me. Right. Dude said, man, I got a stepson. Okay, so you've got a dynamic that's interesting already.
Uh-huh.
I got a stepson. He's 17, 18, I think it was. He bucked up to me. We had a big ass argument. My wife didn't support me, and he told his dad I was trying to fight him when he was really the one trying to fight me. And he still hasn't apologized. And now he's going off to college, and she wants me to go with him, drive her and him to go. I said, well, and their dude's like, man, fuck that, don't go until he apologizes, this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking to myself, I've got a son. At a certain age, your son is going to test you. That's gonna happen, right? Y'all got to work through that. But I'm sitting there thinking, right, and I'm thinking, and I'm listening to, oh man, fuck that, don't go. I'm like, here's how I look at the situation. You probably got to be the bigger man. If you don't go, you're never going to stop having that discussion, right? Y'all can have that discussion in the car. Y'all can have, and a lot, man, it's like, fuck that, don't go. I'm like, bro, do you know the number? And on top of that, dude's dad is going, right? Because that's his son going to college. Like, again, I'm not in this situation, but I look at this.
Yeah, that's tricky, but there are different conversations need to be had. There's a conversation that's between, you and your wife that has to
100%.
happen. There's a conversation that's just between you and that man, right? That child.
Yep,
And there's a conversation you need to have with his father too.
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
And in my opinion, and that's what I told you, I said, the best thing for y'all to do, this is my thought process. I said, I'm not in the situation, so I'm giving you how I handle it from the outside. Go, get that man checked in. Hopefully, you're going to see that little motherfucker for the next 4 years, but go get him checked in, right? And you, her, and his father need to sit down and have a real conversation.
Yeah, real talk. Yep.
But anyway, we hit that window, bro. I want to make sure, hey, thank y'all for whoever watched this hit and whoever check it out later, man. I appreciate it, bro. Let's wrap on the next one.
100.
Peace.